everybody that just tuned in, we're talking about a carryover from last week and a poll that we did. We asked our listeners and viewers what they thought about, overassign. Should the top of the pyramid get the same number as the bottom of the pyramid? Because if you're at the bottom of the pyramid, just dealing with attrition, you get fucked.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, we need to overassign to deal with attrition. Well, the whole company needs to deal with it. Train better, hire better, like everybody's,
Well, what you need is real alignment between the CRO, the CFO, and the CEO. And all three of them have to be working towards the same objective, which is not just the valuation number.
Yeah.
If you're just fixated on that, I mean, we've had this conversation a couple of times now. Yeah. It's a busted flush because essentially all you do is you create a dynamic where you have to drive the valuation, even if you have to do really fucking stupid things.
Welcome to SAASholes. We are revenue ops with an edge. With decades of making interesting decisions, Jamie, Jason, Marcus, and Pete are dedicated to helping aspiring sales leaders accelerate revenues with our no BS approach to sales leadership strategies and tactics. Our show is supported by listeners and viewers just like you. DemandFarm.com. Unlock key account growth with Demand Farm's large deal, key account, and relationship intelligence products. Go to DemandFarm.com now to schedule a demo. Ask for Iron Man. Brent Keltner's Winalytics Revenue Acceleration Playbook Masterclass. In 5 hours over 5 weeks, help your sales and go-to-market team build the mindset and skills for a new buyer environment. Kickoff and product-driven selling versus authentic conversations for all go-to-market teams. Team-level sessions for self-assessment and team dialogue. All go-to-market team wrap-up to identify top go-to-market strategy adjustments. Go to Winalytics.com now. We got some shout-outs to do. Phil LaCourt, 1 year at Ring Central. Leon Dame, 1 year at Atlas Health. Old School Headhunter.net. Jerry M. Chang, CFA. Got a new gig, Managing Director and Partner at Berkeley Research Group. Roger Sosa, 1 year at JCFS Chicago. Brian Carrillo, 2 years at Pavilion. Mike McGowan got promoted to Senior Strategic Account Manager at ZipRecruiter. Lori McInerney got a new gig as Chief Marketing Officer at Qualisites. Way to go, Lori. Ryan Duffy, new gig, Enterprise Account Executive at Upwork. Scott Eng, 1 year at Nurture Life. Zach Sikora, 3 years at People AI. Trenton Platt, 4 years at Monterey Bear Aquarium. Amanda Bush, 1 year at OneSpan. Tyler Hurley, 5 years in the Army Reserve. Thank you for your service, my friend. Jonathan Small, 2 years at Sunrun. Jeff Ignacio, got a new gig, COO Functional Group at Pavilion. Darren Hutchinson, 4 years at Visual Experience Specialist. Bobby Erlin got a new gig at Forerunner on the Customer Service Success Team. Dana Flores, 5 years at Alpha Media USA. And of course, we have some happy birthdays. Debbie D, happy birthday. Lindsay Peters, happy birthday. Another spin around.
Yeah, we need to get Tom showed off on. Tom took Splunk from 46 million to 1.3 billion in 5 years. And his entire business was grown around having the right sales motions and the right assignment of quota, because they actually approached it with a little bit of thought.
Yeah.
They weren't lazy, they weren't selfish, and they weren't ignorant. They took the time to look at the territories. They took the time to look at the salespeople. They took the time to look at the accounts and what potential they had. And then they assigned a number that was bang on what the sales team had. And each person, when you totted their number up, was the same number that the company had. So I had a client who got fired despite hitting quota, and he was one of only 2 in 8 in the team to hit quota, because he wasn't doing enough demos, and the VC insisted on the demo number. So it made the manager's numbers look wrong because they didn't give a damn about the actual number cash.
Rationale, I still don't get it. And that's probably why Carney didn't show up today, because he can't back it up. He says it's about attrition, that you have to put a cushion in there. And if you put a cushion in there, to me, cushion means the integrity is lessened of the number, because we all have a number to hit. It's not a company-wide number. We all have different numbers. How do you get everybody together on the same page that, hey, man, we got to get here. We can't lose any people. We can't lose any prospects. We can't lose any clients. And if you know that there's different levels of cushion.
Just think about what the question that you're asking, because if you come at it with any other approach, you are currently accepting failure rates north of 97%, 99% in each stage of the sales motion. So you go from 100,000 to 1,000, and then you go to 10. And then of those, you might close one. I mean, who, in what universe do those metrics seem to be efficient or serving anybody other than Facebook, Google, and Amazon, who get most of the VC money? Because you're too stupid or lazy to put a bit of thought in. I mean, when you have that consistently, that sort of outcome consistently, you have to ask at some point, is there a better way? And if it happens repeatedly in the different companies that you go to, you also have to ask, is it me? Because it probably fucking is. Look in the mirror and stop for a second and say, well, what are we trying to accomplish here? Are we trying to accomplish growing a business, or am I creating a stock? Yeah, which I'm going to trade. It's just a currency. If you're going to build a currency, you know what happened to FTX. Okay, well, most of you are doing pretty much the same thing, but you're not regulated. Well, he wasn't regulated either, clearly.
Yeah.
You don't have the same kind of restrictions that finance do. So you can be cavalier with people's careers. You can be cavalier with the hundreds of millions of dollars that you've raised, and you can be cavalier with pipeline, because it doesn't matter to you. You're not the poor bastard on the end of the phone making dials and being ignored and rebuffed and speaking to another human being for 3 minutes a day who's actually on your list. That kind of insanity.
Well, the response that we got to it was 75%. Everybody should have the same number. 25% shouldn't. So I'm guessing if you look at that 75%, I'm sure it's mostly salespeople, but there were quite a few leaders in there that felt the same way. So what's the downside of doing that?
The downside of what? Making the quota
all the way down.
It's hard work. It really requires some thought. And you may get some answers you don't like. For example, you might have to slow down because you don't have the capacity to fulfill, or you can't hire. So you can put the number out there, but if you don't have a body on territory meeting customers, yeah, you can try and automate. But look at the pig's ass that came out of that.
Well, the poor guy at the bottom, the sales manager, the guy that's getting all the new people. Look, man, who knows if these salespeople are going to stick, right? You hire, they lie in the interview, they come in, they do the job, and then you got to move them along.
Hey, I've got to stop you there. Okay, today I was doing a training, and I had one of the highlights of my career. Okay, a client came on, and I was moved to literal tears because of his story. And I'll tell you how simple this was. Okay, he won a deal, a 5-year deal on very good terms, and he sold them the next 5 years, and they are paying him both of those contracts over the next 5 years. So he gets paid 5 years in advance. Do you know how he did it? He stopped being a twat. And the way he did it was he said, you must have some concerns and reservations. Let's talk about those. And he unpicked what they were. And he said, look, let's extend this demo for a month and we will cover that cost. And at the end of that month, you can decide whether or not to go ahead, because there was a danger that in this process, there would be fracturing. And the only reason he discovered this was because he actually took the step back and he discovered that another fab had this problem 5 years before. The buyer's journey starts ages before. If you are transactional, then you're going to think that you can ramp up the bodies. You can ramp up the number of what's it touches, the number of actions, the number of emails, the number of calls. That does not make a blind bit of difference in the real world. Yeah, you might find the occasional blind squirrel finding a nut every now and again, but that's not a way to grow a really good, solid business. That's the way to grow a bubble and burst it. And you just end up firing a lot of people and turning them over because you hire 10, 8 fail, and then you hire another 10 and 8 fail, and you hire 10 and 8 fail, and you've got 6 eagles. And what a shitty way to run a business.
But Marcus, we're talking transactional versus strategic. These CEOs and public companies, they live quarter to quarter, right?
But they do. But what this has done for this particular sales leader, is he's crushed Q4 when they were behind. He's now bought himself some breathing space. And the advantage is he's now got cachet with people whose attention matters, because we've got to take 6 months to turn the ship, which means that he can now tell them to go and screw themselves, because the plan that you had wasn't working. The plan that we have has worked. We are now ahead. So fuck off, leave me alone, and let me get on with turning the ship around so it's in a fine shape.
So if you don't have the same number going all the way down, getting back to that, Marcus, what's going on when it's January, February with some companies where the reps don't even have their quota yet because the CROs, the CFOs are trying to, they don't know what the numbers should be.
They're overcomplicating it.
Yeah.
Because they're focused on the wrong end of the problem. And if you focus on the wrong end, you're not going to find a decent solution. The wrong end of the problem is being a selfish twat, focusing on your valuation and not focusing on the customer and bringing them real value. It's not looking after your people and creating the conditions for them to succeed. And it's not putting managers in positions where they are competent to do the job. Managers only have 2 functions, and I will sound like a broken record till my dying breath, which is probably going to be sooner rather than later at this rate, which is their job is to hire the best people and create the conditions for them to thrive and perform at their optimum together.
So if you do that, then what you're saying is there's less volatility and you can do a better job of predicting what the future looks like, because there's too many swings.
You've got certainty, you've got context, you've got clarity, and now you give them courage. And if you've got all of those components, miraculously, people do amazing things. They give discretionary effort. They work really hard. They think, they cooperate, they share insight, they help one another, they partner with the customer, they never put the customer under pressure, they create conditions of buyer safety, and they create upsells, cross sells, and more importantly, expansion sales into other parts of the supply chain, JVs, customer, alumni, organic growth, family tree, overseas subsidiaries, and they're always front of mind. If there's a problem, first person I phone is Pete, because I know I can depend on him not to be a twat and to have my back covered.
So Marcus, what is the right way to do this then? I hate pointing the finger without saying, hey, man, here's the solution. What I think I hear you saying is be vigilant on the process at the beginning with the learning, the process, and then things will smooth out. But you got to come up with a number. How do you do that?
But again, the number doesn't have to be a quarterly number. And I don't think it's the annual number either. I think it's the 3-year number. Yeah. And then work backwards from there. Because now, as a seller, I know my job to be done over 3 years, not this quarter. Okay? Quarter by quarter is fine for sprints, but it's not fine for someone who's trying to manage their career to have meaning in their work. That moment was then echoed by 2 other clients who echoed the same sentiment. Okay? I was a wreck. Why? Because they got the outcome that they paid me for. That's what I want to give. I want to get meaning from my work. I want satisfaction. Now, they're very happy. They're in control. One of the other clients, his father has invented something. Their prospect had gone cold. He applied the stuff that we trained on today that came out of that conversation, and the client came back and said, let's meet on Friday, after having ghosted them for weeks. Yeah, it's not hard, this stuff. But what you got to do is you got to step back and you got to think. You got to think as your customer. You got to think as your partners. You got to think as your salespeople. You got to stop thinking about yourself. It's not about you. No one gives a fuck. Okay? You're irrelevant. And you've got to stop thinking that that valuation number means anything to anyone. In fact, listen to my podcast today, okay, on the 6th of December with David Heinemeier Hansen, who is the co-founder of 37 Signals, the guys who did Basecamp, okay? 21 years they've been building a profitable business with 80 people. They've got as many customers as any of the big unicorns. Now think about that, $50 a month with only 80 people. Their revenue and their profit per employee is off the scale. And they've given away how much of their equity and control to a bunch of blood-sucking parasites who deliver fuck all value? None. On that happy note, I've noticed the time and I'm going to have to pick up my daughter. Otherwise she'll be whining at me. But I hope this has been instructive. Go and listen to that podcast with David. Check out 37 Signals. And it's a fabulous story. This is how businesses should be built. None of this shite. You can get rich quick, or you can get rich slow and steady and permanently. I would, the moment those guys went public, I would put money in their business happily, because it's not going to crumble. It's got 21 years of solid foundations. It's not crumbled by the quarter.
All right, Marcus, you got a split?
I do.
Marcus, thanks for this bulletin on the SAASholes podcast.
Up your SAASholes.
Peace. Our show is supported by listeners and viewers just like you. DemandFarm.com. Unlock key account growth with Demand Farm's large deal, key account, and relationship intelligence products. Go to DemandFarm.com now to schedule a demo. Ask for Iron Man. Brent Keltner's Winalytics Revenue Acceleration Playbook Masterclass. In 5 hours over 5 weeks, help your sales and go-to-market team build the mindset and skills for a new buyer environment. Kickoff and product-driven selling versus authentic conversations for all go-to-market teams. Team-level sessions for self-assessment and team dialogue. All go-to-market team wrap-up to identify top go-to-market strategy adjustments. Go to Winalytics.com now.